Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Christian Alpha. My name is Troy. I am an attorney, a writer, a business owner, a father, and most importantly, a Christian. Thanks for hopping on for another episode. I want to talk today about a legal issue. And as I mentioned, I'm an attorney, but I don't talk a ton about my practice issues here on the show. But I did want to talk about one issue today that comes up frequently, that I encounter frequently, and that is, how can a father who's going through a divorce protect his relationships with his children? And I should say protect and preserve those relationships with his children. Divorce isn't a huge part of my practice. I do mostly civil litigation, criminal defense, and quite a bit of family law. Don't do a ton of divorce, but when someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm in the middle of this, I need your help resolving it, reconciling things, taking care of things, then I will step in from time to time. So I do have a pretty significant amount of experience with divorces. And so I'll give my legal disclaimer here and say any information that I'm providing today is not intended to be legal advice. It's not intended to establish any type of attorney-client relationship. But I did want to provide some general information and maybe helpful tips that can help you. Let me first start by saying, if you're going through this situation, or if your relationship may be on the path to divorce, I hope and pray that you can get that worked out. I hope and pray that you can save your marriage either through counseling or through working things out with your spouse, whatever, because my belief, my experience, and I think the numbers will back it up as well, is that an intact family, an intact home is in the best interest of the children. And so hopefully you can work that out with your spouse. If not, if you find yourself in the middle of a divorce, I'm going to give you some pointers on things to think about that might help you preserve your relationship with your children. And as I was saying, for most dads that I deal with, that relationship with their children is paramount. It's more important than the house, than the retirement account, than any type of vehicles or even child support. More important than all of those typically is the relationship with the children. So a few things. First of all, courts in general, I'll start by saying, I may or may not practice in your state, but every state is different. Okay, so check the local laws of your state, check with your attorney. If you have engaged one or will be engaging one, they're going to know best the rules, customs, traditions, and everything of your local jurisdiction, all of which are important. Okay, generally speaking, courts have kind of gotten away from the mother knows best default position that they used to take in divorce cases. I'm not going to say that's all out of the system, but it certainly has changed in recent decades and in recent years, where most judges are willing to start from a position of 50-50 in their minds, at least, in terms of how custody should be divided between the parents. And that's always a big concern for fathers that come to me. They always come in with this assumption that courts are biased against dads and that moms are going to always walk away with primary custody. And that's not always the case. I think by default, just by inclination, judges are going to be likely to tend towards mom. I'm not going to deny that, but I think judges, by and large, are far more open to a father's high level of engagement in the children's lives than they would have been 20, 50 years ago. Okay, so it's not a death knell to your relationship with your children just because you're going through a divorce. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you want to make sure both, leading up to a divorce case, going through a divorce case, you want to make sure that you're actively involved in your children's lives. And the courts want to see that. They want to see that you're going to the baseball games, that you're doing the extracurricular activities, that you're helping the children with the homework, that, you're engaged. Okay. And most dads that I know who are interested in maintaining that relationship with their children, they already are. So, but in case you're not actively involved in all those activities, that is something to really consider, because that is what the judge is going to be looking at. Medical, treatments and doctor's visits. Are you engaged in those? Are you going? Church. Is it mom always taking the kids to church, or do you take the kids to church? Do you guys share that responsibility? Transporting back and forth to activities. All those types of things favor or I should say, factor heavily into a judge's decision. And in my experience, moms are usually the ones who are kind of more adept at handling those, just because that's kind of the default position that the parties kind of fall into. It's nobody's fault. That's just the way it is a lot of times. You need to counter that as a father and insert yourself into those situations to show the judge that, you are engaged and you want to be engaged. The third thing, and probably the most important thing, you really want to work to cooperate with your spouse, even after a breakup, even as you're going through a divorce, because I will tell you, one thing that really hurts dads in the eyes of the court is a hostility towards mom, because they perceive her as cutting them out of the children's lives. They're angry about the divorce. They're angry about the breakup of their family, all of which are completely understandable. But it really hurts them when they get before the judge, because it comes across as they're unable to co-parent. So as difficult as this may be, you want to lower or eliminate your hostility that you may have towards the spouse, any hostility that you may have towards the system, and present yourself as a reasonable, mature, caring parent who is willing and able to cooperate with the spouse going forward and co-parent with them. That is going to be of enormous importance to the court. Okay, so just some quick tips there. Hopefully that's helpful to you. If you got any value out of this, please consider subscribing or supporting us. And otherwise, we will see you on the next episode. Thank you.